Welcome back everyone. In this video we'll be taking a look at the new Figuarts standard future trunks, but this isn't your ordinary figure review. Today we'll be comparing him to the Bandai Figuarts Premium Color Edition future trunks. And as always, we'll be taking a look at the paint and sculpt work, articulation and accessories to give you an in-depth review on both of these figures. So for this video I wanted to make the comparison not so much on which figure is better, but which figure is better for their respective line. And it's not to say that you can't mix and match the figures for your own collection, which is what I have been doing, but I feel that because of the size difference, the noticeable size difference between the figures, that we should be judging the figures based on what they are actually made for. The Figuarts trunks being for the Figuarts line, and the SH Figuarts trunks being for the SH Figuarts line. Alright guys, so let's jump straight into it with the paint and sculpt work. And to be fair, the Figuarts trunks doesn't actually come with any paint, it being a model kit. The only, I guess, details the figure comes with are actually stickers which you have to apply on yourself, but everything else is molded plastic. So in saying that, I won't be deducting any points from the Figuarts trunks because it doesn't actually come with any paint. Everything that is painted in the promo pics is actually done, will have to be done by yourself. So let's hit it off with the head sculpt, and for me this is especially important as the head, if they don't get it right, is definitely a deal breaker. So looking at normal trunks, first off we have in the middle a animation screen capture, just to give you guys a comparison and let you decide which one looks more animation accurate. As you can see here, we have Trunks with his classic purple undercut hair, and you can see that the Figuarts Trunks definitely has a more symmetrical look to the hair, whilst the Figuarts has I guess an asymmetrical. There's more volume, I guess, on one side. Looking at the face sculpt, as you can see here for the Figuarts, the face sculpt is definitely really sharply molded, it being a model kit. Each piece, the eyes, the face, the hair, is individually put together, so you're going to get that sharp detail. For the Figuarts, this is the premium color edition. So it has been updated with some new paint. That being said, I guess it's more softer, not as sharp as the Figuarts. The paint is a little cleaner than the original release. I don't have the original release, but I have seen some pictures and some reviews on it. The paint is definitely cleaner than the original version, but you do get the I guess the really dark black or really dark brown line there for his mouth, and that is kind of distracting. There is paint, some shading for the Figuarts trunks on the hair. There is obviously no paint for the Figuarts, but the plastic is molded in a nice purple and a nice shade for the skin tone. Something also to be aware of for the Figuarts trunks, the eyebrows don't actually match the color of his hair, which I'm pretty sure it's supposed to. And switching it up to the Super Saiyan head sculpt, again we have a animation screen capture, just for your reference, to let you guys compare which one looks the closest to the animation. For the Figuarts, they do use a pearlescent kind of a shiny plastic for the Super Saiyan hair, whilst the Figuarts version uses a dark yellow paint. It's shiny with some darker yellow highlights down in the middle there. And looking at the face sculpts themselves, you can see here that Figuarts does use the same face sculpt for the normal trunks, the only difference being the eyebrows and the eyes, green and yellow. Nice sculpted details, of course. Looking over to the Figuarts, this is actually before they printed all the facial details, so everything is painted on. It is done a little better than the original version, but compared to the newer Figuarts Dragon Ball Z figures, you can definitely see that you know, this Future Trunks does show its age, and it's not as sharp as the more recent SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z figures. And moving on to the body, you can see that both figures have some nice detail, especially in the jacket. You can see all the folds and all the creases in the arms, especially for the Figuarts version. It being a model kit, once again, all the pieces are going to be a lot sharper, a lot crisper. It's all molded plastic once again, and you do get some paint on the Figuarts version. You can see some shading there on the arms. The Capsule Corp logo there is printed on, and it's done quite well. Quite neat. The logo on the Figuarts version is actually a sticker, and you can see some more stickers on the belt straps there as well. The belt on the Figuarts version is painted and highlighted with some silver accents for the buckle, and there is a grey wash over it as well. Going on to the pants, both of the figures just use a straight up grey. There is some paint, some shading on the knees for the Figuarts version, and when you actually turn it around, you can see that for the Figuarts version, the knee joints are actually sculpted, which is a nice detail when compared to the Figuarts version. It's just the straight up joints, so the molded joints on the Figuarts version does look better, and I do appreciate that. So one thing that I do like about the Figuarts version is for the pieces, when you snap them together, you can see here on the pants that the lines, the seams, when you piece them together, it's not just a straight line. They are actually curves, and they're cut out in a way that kind of matches the curves of the pants or on the clothes itself. So that is definitely a nice touch on the Figuarts version. 3, 2, 1. On the Figuarts version, we do get some shading on the boots with some brown paint on the tips, and the soles of the shoes are painted white, whilst the Figuarts is just a straight up molded yellow plastic, with the brown parts being separate pieces and the soles being separate pieces as well. And moving on to articulation, so both figures, both of the heads are on a single ball joint. The Figuarts version actually having a separate neck piece, while the Figuarts, the torso and the neck are one solid piece. So you do get more range of motion for the Figuarts version. Both figures looking side to side fairly well. However, the Figuarts looks side to side a little bit better than the Figuarts version, because the Figuarts version's head is actually hindered by the jacket. You do get some tilt there for the Figuarts, but no tilt for the Figuarts. The Figuarts does look up, whilst the Figuarts version is hindered by the collar of the jacket once again, but both figures do look down. The Figuarts version having a better angle there. And for arm articulation, both figures do get 90 degrees at the shoulders. The Figuarts getting a little bit better than 90 degrees. You got to watch out for the Figuarts version, because you actually have to tuck in the shoulder into the jacket. It does get into the way. It does get in the way, but once you tuck it in, you do get that 90 degree angle. Both figures do have a full 360 rotation at the shoulders. The Figuarts does have a butterfly joint there. The Figuarts does not. The Figuarts has a upper bicep swivel with a single jointed elbow, but it does get better than 90 degrees. The Figuarts version has a double jointed elbow and gets a lot better than 90 degrees. Looking at the wrists, both have wrist swivels. The Figuarts version doesn't have a hinge for the fisted hands, but it does have a hinge for the open palm blast hands. Both figures do have a mid-torso and a lower torso joint, so you do get a bit of ab crunch for both figures, but not too much. You also get some waist swivel there as well, and you do get some tilt for the upper torso for the Figuarts and some tilt for the Figuarts, but for the lower torso joint. And moving on to the leg articulation, both figures actually do the splits really well. The Figuarts version actually has a bit, just very slightly better splits than the Figuarts version. For the Figuarts version, you can actually pull the legs down to get that extra articulation there when you spread the legs out. Both figures do have upper thigh swivel, and both figures do kick out fairly well and do kick back just as well. For the Figuarts version, it's a single knee joint, but it does get a really good angle and it does get the leg really far back. The knee joint is actually really well done as well. It's all sculpted to look like the pants. The Figuarts version, it's double jointed, so you get really nice knee articulation there. However, the knee joint, I think, is not as well done as the Figuarts version. The Figuarts version does have some ankle swivel there, no ankle swivel for the Figuarts. Both figures do have slight up and down movement for the feet. The Figuarts version does have extra toe articulation, and both figures do have some ankle pivot. And moving on to accessories, and where would Trunks be without his iconic sword? Looking at the Figuarts version first, you can see here the belt is molded in a light blue plastic. It is a little bit malleable, but it is still a hard plastic, so you'll have to be careful with it. It does attach here via pegs and a hole, so you can detach that, fit it on Trunks, and then kind of tab that back inside. These belt buckles here are stickers. The blue parts here are also stickers. It is molded in a brown plastic, the main part of the sheath. These white parts, which are supposed to be silver, you can actually paint them silver later on, are molded in a white plastic. And the sword itself, you only get one sword, is molded in a straight up white plastic, which is kind of disappointing. I did wish it was molded in a grey silver, at least a grey, but it is just like one flat color. But it doesn't seem too difficult to paint, even if you're not familiar or you don't have too much experience painting. You know, it's basically just two colors, silver and brown, for the actual hilt. Moving on to the Figuarts, you do get two swords, a normal sword, which is painted in a nice shiny silver, and the hilt is painted brown as well, so very nice here. Simple but nice. You also get another sword which you put into the sheath, so it's a sheathed sword. The sheath itself is painted in a orange. It's supposed to be orange. The blue there is painted. The strap is made from a soft rubber plastic. The buckle there is painted a silver with some metallic red highlights, and these parts, the covers of the actual sheath, are painted in a nice shiny silver also. For Figuarts, you do get quite a bit of accessories. You get 10 pairs of hands, a pair of fisted hands that it does come packaged with. It also comes with two hands that are used for holding the sword, and it does hold the sword, it does grip the sword fairly well. The hands are a malleable, kind of soft plastic, and it does hold the sword quite well there without falling out. It's not loose, which is good. You also get a pair of flat open palm hands. These can be used for, I guess, blast hands, some blast poses, or a salute, I guess. You also get two, I guess, fighting pose hands, which are kind of cool. They're kind of similar to Vegeta's iconic fighting pose hands. I guess, you know, being Vegeta's son. He probably adopted kind of a similar fighting style. You also get his 2 blast open palm hands as well. Moving on to the faces, he does get 3 Super Saiyan faces. You get the normal stern looking face there. You get the shouting face. And you also get the gritting teeth face right there as well. In addition to that, you also get a normal Trunks head. I do like this head. I do prefer this style of hair compared to the Figuarts version, but that's just me. It is painted and it does have some highlights there on the purple, as I mentioned before, and this is just a normal stern looking face there. And you do get a gritting teeth version as well. So for the Figuarts accessories, you do get a total of 7 hands, 2 fisted hands right here. You do get 2 open palm blasting hands, and I really like these hands because these hands are actually hinged. In the past, for example, for the Cell, the Figuarts Cell, it did have some open palm hands, but they weren't hinged, so it was kind of like that fixed position. But with these, you do get that extra bit of articulation, which is fantastic. You also get 2 open palm hands. These hands do double up, I guess, as control holding hands. These hands can be used when he's sitting down and controlling the time machine, but they can also be used as a double grip when you actually wield the sword, and which is something that this figure can actually do. You can actually use both hands to wield Trunks' sword. And last but not least, you do get a sword wielding hand, and it's only for the right hand, which is my one nitpick, because as you can see here, I'm having a lot of trouble trying to get this apart, and you do have to get it apart to actually put the sword in, which can be quite fiddly if you don't have any fingernails, and you have to do this every time to get that sword in. And once you've got the sword in, it's not tight, it is kind of loose, so it does come down. It doesn't come out, but it is loose there, which is just one minor nitpick of mine. I do prefer, the hands, having some way of holding the sword without actually having to take it apart. For the head sculpts, you do get a normal Trunks head. This is a really nice sculpt. I do prefer, like I said, the Figuarts version. I don't know, for the Figuarts figures, I kind of feel that the head sculpts kind of look like the 3D models from the games, but that's just me. It does also come with a Super Saiyan head sculpt as well. This is the stern head, a nice head sculpt there as well, and you do get a shouting face for the Super Saiyan version 2. In addition to that, you also get 2 really cool effect pieces. This is probably my favorite one. You can actually recreate Trunks' iconic, attacks. And the great thing about this is that you can also use these effect pieces with a stand. So you can get those cool poses, those cool battle scenes out of these figures. And you don't have to use these effect pieces just for Trunks. You can use these effect pieces for any Dragon Ball Z figures, and I always appreciate blast effect figures, especially for Dragon Ball Z characters. Okay guys, let's get in some size comparisons and my final thoughts about both of these figures. Yeah, here we go. Looking at both of the figures side by side, you can see that the Figuarts Trunks is definitely a lot taller, towers over the Figuarts version, and when you compare the Figuarts together, you can see that Vegeta, the newer Vegeta, is, taller than Trunks, and he's not supposed to be. In the animation, Trunks is a little bit shorter than Goku, but definitely taller than Vegeta. And when you compare it now to the newer Trunks, to the Saiyan armor Trunks, that's how tall he should be. So he's way too small, to be in scale with the rest of the figures. But when we look at the Figuarts version, I think it's definitely a good size for the Figuarts line. A bit too tall for the Figuarts if you were to put them together, but I'm sure if you positioned them in different angles, it could work. But having them in a vanilla pose like this, definitely too big for the Figuarts line. Okay, so just my final thoughts about both of the figures. What I like about the Figuarts version is that for its time, it definitely was a fantastic figure. It's got some great articulation. The joints, especially for the premium version, I'm not sure about the original version, are quite solid. They're quite tight. The joints are actually pinned in with metal pins, unlike for example Super Saiyan Gohan. The arms were constantly falling apart. Same can be said for the actual feet articulation as well. They're actually pinned in, so I do like that. The coloring is not too bad. I do like the shading in the hair, but just in terms of the size, it's just way too small, and it's just way too dated. It really does need an update. Comparing it to some of the newer figures, especially the newer Vegeta and the newer Trunks, even the Xenoverse Trunks, you can see that the Figuarts has really come a long way in terms of paintwork, in terms of sculpt, and I think we really do need an updated future Trunks, because Trunks, for me, and I think for a lot of people, is definitely a iconic favorite character, and having Trunks, especially in this this outfit, I think a lot of people would definitely want an updated version of future Trunks. Going on to Figuarts, I really can't floor it. It actually, for me, I'm really happy with this figure. Don't get me wrong, I do love my Figuarts villains, Cell, Boo, and Frieza. Sorry, lost for words. I don't actually have any of the other Z Warriors. This is actually my first Z Warrior Figuarts figure, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart. I mean, with my Cell, it just feels really fragile. It may be because of how big it is and because of all the hollow parts, but I mean, I'm not saying it's a complete full-on action figure, but it does feel really solid. The joints are great. It is excellently molded. Even without any paint, it looks fantastic and definitely feels more playable than my other Figuarts figures. The other thing I do love about this figure is the accessories. Like I mentioned before, I love the effect pieces. I love that. I love the fact that it came with two blast effect pieces, and the option of having it in Super Saiyan and in normal mode, normal Trunks mode, is definitely a plus. And I would definitely recommend this figure, even if you only collect Figuarts. It's definitely a fantastic Trunks to have. If you were to choose between Figuarts and Figuarts, I would definitely go for the Figuarts version for this comparison, actually. Even if you do just collect Figuarts figures, you can't go wrong with the Figuarts version this time. It's definitely a fantastic figure with some excellent accessories, great articulation, and definitely feels a lot more solid than some of its predecessors. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's comparison. We're going to have some more Dragon Ball Z figure reviews coming up real soon. The Figuarts Trunks Time Machine speed build and full review coming up right after this, so do look out for that. And we also have, I just got in recently, the SH Figuarts Nappa, which is an excellent figure, but yeah, I'll tell you more about that in the next video. And I know I've been saying this a lot recently, but no matter which line you go with, the Figuarts or the Figuarts, or if you collect both, now is never a better time to be a Dragon Ball Z figure collector. Both lines are just pumping out fantastic figures, a lot more characters than they've ever been before. So definitely an exciting series to get into if you are a Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT fan. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome. I hope you guys have a good week, and I will see you for the next one. Bye.